The acid rain pattered against the hull of the downed human transport skiff, each drop sizzling as it ate into the metal. Rhea ran her clawed fingers along the scorched outer plating, feeling the pockmarks where human weapons had torn through. The perpetual orange-gray sky of Zenta loomed overhead, casting everything in a sickly glow that matched her mood. "Another one," she muttered, mandibles clicking in irritation. "Just like the last 7. Her armor hummed, adjusting to her agitation. The Zeraki battlesuit was responsive that way, sensing and amplifying useful emotions like aggression while dampening inconvenient ones like empathy or remorse. Not that Rhea needed much help with those. 8 years of warfare had burned most of her softer feelings away. She heaved herself up onto the skiff's exposed bridge, her 4-fingered hands finding easy purchase on the melted framework. The wreckage was still warm. The humans couldn't have gotten far. "Status report," came Galar's gravelly voice through her comms. Her patrol leader was back at the ridge, coordinating their sweep of the sector. "Transport skiff, T-67 model, recently downed." Rhea swept her gaze across the buckled floor panels. Minimal blood spatter. Most escaped. "Any tactical value?" Galar asked, the familiar edge of hungry anticipation in his voice. Rhea kicked at a half-melted console. "Doubt it. Same garbage tech as always. Honestly, I don't know why High Command bothers. It's like whack-a-mole with these humans. Wasteful." "Careful," Galar warned. "Your sentiment indicators are fluctuating." Rhea rolled her eyes behind her visor. Galar lived for these skirmishes, seeing every human transport as a personal affront to Zeraki dominance. But after 3 years of hunting humans across the acid plains of Zenta, Rhea was simply bored. The humans were outmatched, outgunned. And still they kept coming, kept dying, and for what? A planet barely habitable to either species. "Conducting interior sweep," she said, cutting off further conversation. Inside, the skiff was the usual chaos. Upended chairs, scattered ration packs, a stuffed toy forgotten in the rush to evacuate. Rhea nudged it with her foot. Something soft and gray with disproportionately large ears. She'd seen them before in human habitats, usually clutched by their young. Her suit registered a momentary uptick in her oxytocin levels and adjusted accordingly, sending a mild suppressant into her bloodstream. The cabin stank of fear and sweat, the distinctive human musk that lingered long after they fled. Rhea moved methodically from the bridge toward the rear cargo hold, scanning for anything of value: weapons caches, navigation data, communications equipment, the usual targets. But this skiff appeared to be primarily a civilian transport. Medical supplies and food rations made up most of the scattered cargo. "Nothing worth salvaging," she reported. "Check for intel," Galar insisted. "Their command codes rotate weekly. Anything written down helps." Rhea sighed, but complied, pulling open compartments and rifling through abandoned personal effects. Most Zeraki found human writing indecipherable, but Rhea had been part of a specialized program. Warriors implanted with linguistic processors to better understand their enemy. She could read their crude alphabet, even if much of their idiom remained puzzling. Near what appeared to be a personal bunk, she found a small rectangular object. Her suit identified it as processed plant material. Paper, bound with a synthetic spine. A notebook. Scorch marks blackened its edges, but it had survived the crash, largely intact. The cover bore a single human word in uneven lettering: Ethan. "Found something," she told Galar. "Possible intel. I'll review and report." "Make it quick," he responded. "Squad 2 found tracks heading northeast. We move in 10. Rhea settled against a relatively stable bulkhead and pried open the notebook, expecting tactical schematics, or at least navigational coordinates. Instead, she found pages of tiny, cramped handwriting interspersed with crude drawings. The first page showed a 5-pointed star surrounded by smaller dots. Next to it, the words, Looks different from here. Can still find the North Star, though. Makes me feel better. Rhea frowned and flipped further. More stars. More cryptic personal notations. A sketch of what appeared to be a winged rodent with an oversized head labeled Space Bat, Defender of the Galaxy, made her snort. Childish nonsense. But then, several pages in, the writing changed, became smaller, more urgent. First combat deployment. They say Zenta is strategically vital. But from orbit it looks like hell. Orange clouds of God knows what. Command says the atmosphere's barely breathable, even with filters. The Zaraki want it bad enough to die for it. So I guess we do too. Rhea's mandibles clicked together softly. She recognized the sentiment. Her first glimpse of Zenta hadn't been much different. She turned more pages. Third week planetside. Dozicki fell into an acid pool today. Nothing left but his boots and part of his rifle. We couldn't even collect tags for his family. Santiago cried when we got back to base. I pretended not to notice. Beside this entry was a small sketch of what appeared to be a human boot, rendered with surprising detail. Lost contact with Echo Squad. That makes 3 teams in 2 weeks. Command says hold position. But what are we holding? Miles of nothing but rocks and acid and death. If the Zaraki want this hellhole so badly, maybe we should let them have it. Rhea felt an unfamiliar sensation, a tightness in her chest cavity that her suit immediately flagged as stress. She ignored the warning indicators flashing in her visor and continued reading. I keep thinking about home, the lake behind my parents' house, how the sunrise looked through the pine trees. Do the Zaraki have anything like that? Places they love just because they're beautiful? Everyone says they're just living weapons, bred for war and nothing else. But I don't know. Sometimes in the field, I see them looking up at the stars too. The handwriting grew increasingly unsteady as she flipped through the pages. Dream about Mom again. She was making those pancakes with the blueberries that turned the batter purple. Woke up crying. Told the guys it was just the acid air irritating my eyes. Don't think they believed me, but they pretended to. That's what family does, I guess. And they're my family now. Family. The concept was alien to Rhea. Zaraki were hatched in broods, raised in training cadres, and assigned to combat units. Efficiency was paramount. Attachment was discouraged. A small drawing caught her eye. A simple circle with lines radiating outward. A child's rendition of a sun. Beneath it, the words, even here, the sun still rises. Even here. Something cold and unfamiliar slid down Rhea's face. She touched her cheek, surprised to find moisture. Her suit immediately released more suppressants, but not before she recognized the sensation for what it was. Tears. She was crying over the scribblings of an enemy combatant. The realization should have disgusted her. Instead, she found herself turning pages faster, hungry for more glimpses into this human's mind. Watched a Zaraki patrol from the ridge today. They move like nothing I've ever seen. So precise it's almost beautiful. Their armor changes colors with the terrain. Santiago says they're just machines in bugskin. But I saw one of them stop to watch the sunrise. Just for a second. Made me wonder. The next few pages held more mundane observations, complaints about rations, notes on equipment maintenance, sketches of squad mates. Then came an entry with darker ink, pressed hard into the page. Transport hit on descent. Captain's dead. Nav systems fried. We're going down in Sector 7. If anyone finds this... The writing broke off mid-sentence. The next page was blank, save for a single line at the bottom, written in shaky letters. I hope someone knows I tried. Rhea stared at the words, feeling something crack inside her, something the suit's suppressants couldn't reach. She thought of the humans fleeing this very skiff, probably carrying their wounded, heading into the acid flats with limited supplies and no hope of rescue. She thought of this Ethan, with his stars and his memories of purple pancakes and his ridiculous space bat drawings. Status update! Gullar barked through the comms, startling her. Report findings and proceed to rendezvous coordinates. Rhea hesitated, looking down at the notebook in her hands. Standard protocol required her to transmit any recovered human documents to Intelligence Division. But something, the same something that had cracked inside her, rebelled at the thought. "Nothing useful," she said finally. "Just personal effects. No tactical value." "Waste of time," Galar grumbled. "Move to these coordinates. We've located human heat signatures in a cave system 2 clicks northeast." The cave system. Of course. The humans would seek shelter from the acid rain, especially if they had wounded. Rhea could lead her squad there in minutes. It would be a simple cleanup operation. The humans were likely exhausted, low on ammunition, easy kills. Ethan might be among them. "Acknowledged," she said, but made no move to rise. Instead, she turned to the last written page of the notebook. A drawing filled the space, crude but recognizable. A human figure and a Zuraki warrior standing side by side. Between them, a simple symbol that even Rhea understood. A vertical line bisected by a shorter horizontal one. The human peace sign. Beneath it, 2 words. Possible, someday? Something inside Rhea hardened into resolve. She slipped the notebook into a compartment in her armor. "Rhea, what's your position?" Galar demanded. She stood, decision made. "The tracking system must be malfunctioning. I'm picking up heat signatures to the southwest, not northeast." "That's impossible," Galar snapped. "Our scans clearly show—" "Your equipment is old model," Rhea interrupted. "Mine received the latest calibration updates. Trust me, they're heading southwest. I'm pursuing." Before Galar could argue further, she disabled her locator beacon, a serious violation of protocol, and leapt from the skiff into the acid-scarred terrain below. The rain had temporarily abated, leaving a mist that clung to the rocky ground. Perfect cover. Rhea moved with purpose, not toward the coordinates Galar had provided, but in the opposite direction, away from the human survivors. She needed time to think, to process the impossible emotions surging through her system faster than her suit could suppress them. The diary had affected her in ways she couldn't articulate. This Ethan, this enemy, had seen beauty in the same stars she'd gazed upon, had questioned the same pointless war, had even, impossibly, imagined peace. Rhea found shelter beneath an outcropping of acid-resistant rock and withdrew the notebook again. She read it cover to cover, absorbing every word, every sketch, every hope and fear. By the time she finished, the orange-gray sky had darkened to near black. Night on Zenta was brief, but total. In the darkness, her comms crackled. "All units, report positions. Repeat. All units report." Galar, initiating a sector-wide search. For the humans, and probably for her. Desertion was punishable by immediate termination. Rhea knew the risks. She also knew what she had to do. When the first pale light broke through Zenta's toxic clouds, Rhea was moving again, this time with clear purpose. Her enhanced senses picked up the trail easily. Blood droplets, footprints partially erased by acid rain, discarded medical packaging. The humans had indeed headed northeast, toward the cave system Galar had identified. But Rhea had bought them precious hours. It wouldn't be enough. Zuraki patrols would find them eventually. Unless... Rhea increased her pace, keeping low to the ground, her armor shifting to match the modeled terrain. The cave entrance loomed ahead, a dark mouth in the cliff face. She approached cautiously, all senses alert. A shot rang out, the projectile ricocheting off the rocks beside her head. "That was a warning," called a human voice, strained but determined. "Next one goes through your skull. Bug." Rhea froze, then slowly raised her hands, a human gesture of surrender she'd observed in previous encounters. "I come alone," she said, her translator rendering her clicks and chirps into rough human speech. No hostile intent. Disbelieving laughter echoed from the cave. "Right, And I'm the Queen of England. Back off or die. It's your choice. Rhea remained motionless. I have something of yours. Something from the transport. Silence. Then, what game is this? Slowly, telegraphing every movement. Rhea reached into her armor compartment and withdrew the notebook. She held it up where the strengthening daylight could illuminate it. Ethan's, she said simply. The silence from the cave stretched so long that Rhea wondered if the humans had retreated deeper inside. Then came the sound of hushed, urgent voices. A different human spoke. This one's voice higher, younger. How do you know that name? It's written here, Rhea answered, still holding the notebook aloft. I found it in the crashed skiff. I've read it, all of it. More murmuring from within. Then, toss it over, slowly. Rhea hesitated. The notebook was her only leverage, her only proof of peaceful intentions. Once surrendered, the humans might simply shoot her where she stood. But wasn't that the point? To trust? To take the first step that Ethan had imagined in his final drawing? She tossed the notebook gently. It landed a few meters from the cave entrance. A long minute passed before a figure darted out. Small, wrapped in bulky protective gear, moving with the awkward gait of the injured. The human snatched up the notebook and retreated back to safety. More urgent conversation echoed from the cave. Rhea waited, her suit struggling to regulate her accelerated heart rate. Warning indicators flashed across her visor, elevated stress hormones, irregular neural patterns, symptoms of fear, of hope. Finally, 3 figures emerged from the darkness. All wore the gray-green uniforms of human infantry, though one leaned heavily on another. Their faces were obscured by breathing apparatus, necessary protection against Zenta's caustic atmosphere, but their postures broadcast tension and distrust. The tallest one stepped forward, rifle still aimed at Rhea's chest, in one hand. He held the open notebook. Why? The question was simple, direct. Rhea considered her answer carefully. Because he saw me watching a sunrise once, she said finally. Because he wondered if I found it beautiful. I did. The human made a sound, half laugh, half sob. That sounds like Ethan. He is with you, Rhea asked, hope flaring despite herself. The 3 humans exchanged glances. The one being supported, a female, Rhea thought, though human gender dimorphism was subtle to Zaraki eyes, shook her head. Ethan stayed behind to hold off your patrol while we evacuated, said the tall one, voice tight. He bought us time to get the wounded out. He knew it was a one-way mission. Rhea's inner eyelids flickered rapidly, a Zaraki expression of distress. I'm sorry. Why should you care? Demanded the 3rd human, voice bitter. One less enemy for you to hunt. Rhea gestured to the notebook. Because he saw more than enemies. So do I, now. The tall human lowered his rifle slightly. What do you want? To help you survive, Rhea said simply. My patrol is searching the wrong sector, but that won't last. They'll find you by nightfall. And why would you betray your own kind? Asked the female. Suspicion, evident despite her labored breathing. Rhea thought of Ethan's last drawing, the human and Zaraki standing together. Because this war makes no sense. Because Ethan was right to question it. Because maybe we're not so different after all. The humans conferred quietly. Then, the tall one stepped forward again. I'm Lieutenant Rivera. That's Santiago. He indicated the bitter-voiced one. And Dr. Nayar, the injured female. Dr. Nayar straightened slightly at the introduction. Ethan was our communications specialist, and our moral compass. It seems... Rhea inclined her head in acknowledgement. I am Patrol Specialist Rhea, 7th Division. She hesitated, then unclasped her helmet, exposing her face to the toxic air. Her breathing apparatus would filter the worst elements, but the gesture left her vulnerable. Trust had to begin somewhere. The humans tensed at the sight of her alien features. The iridescent compound eyes, the twitching mandibles, the hardened carapace of her face. But they didn't raise their weapons. "We have 6 more wounded inside," Rivera said after a moment. "No transport, limited medical supplies, and about 18 hours of oxygen left in our portable scrubbers. After that," he didn't need to finish. "After that, they'd be forced to breathe Zenta's atmosphere unfiltered. A slow, agonizing death." "There's an abandoned research station in Sector 5, Ria said. "Zuraki established it early in the occupation but withdrew when the acid storms intensified. It should have functioning air filters and supplies. And a homing beacon that will bring your friends down on us like hammer," Santiago snapped. Ria shook her head. "The communication array was destroyed in the evacuation. The facility is off the grid." "How do we know this isn't a trap?" Dr. Nair asked, her clinical tone at odds with the fear evident in her rigid posture. Ria had no answer that would satisfy them. Instead, she turned to Santiago. "Ethan wrote about you. He said you cried when Doziki died, but pretended not to notice when he cried." Santiago's breath audibly caught. What?" "He called you family," Ria continued, the words feeling strange in her mouth. "All of you. He said that's what family does, pretends not to notice the tears." The 3 humans stared at her, speechless. Then Rivera laughed, a broken, disbelieving sound. "Well," he said, "Ethan always was a better judge of character than me." He lowered his rifle completely. "We don't have many options. People, and anyone Ethan would trust. I'm willing to take a chance on." Dr. Nair nodded slowly. "The wounded won't survive another night out here anyway." Santiago still looked suspicious, but grudgingly lowered his weapon as well. "Fine, but I'm watching you, Bug." Ria suppressed a clicking laugh. "I would expect nothing less." The next few hours passed in tense cooperation. The humans had 9 survivors in total, 3 too injured to walk unaided. Ria helped fashion stretchers from the limited materials available, her superior strength proving useful in navigating the difficult terrain. The group moved slowly, staying low to the ground whenever possible, using rock formations for cover. Ria maintained constant vigilance, her enhanced senses alert for any sign of Zuraki patrols. Twice, she detected distant movement and led the humans on detours to avoid detection. The acid rain returned intermittently, necessitating frequent stops under whatever shelter they could find. During one such pause, huddled beneath a rocky overhang, Rivera approached her. "Why are you really doing this?" he asked quietly, while the others rested. Ria considered the question. "Have you read his notebook? All of it?" Rivera nodded. "Ethan and I enlisted together. Been friends since we were kids. He always wrote everything down. Said it helped him make sense of things." "The last page," Ria said. "His drawing. A human and a Zuraki, standing together. I saw it. No one had ever imagined such a thing before. Not in all the years of this war. No Zuraki, no human. No one except Ethan." Ria's mandibles clicked softly. "It made me think perhaps we've all been blind." Rivera studied her alien features for a long moment. "Ethan would have liked you," he said finally. "I would have liked him too," Ria replied, surprised to find she meant it. By late afternoon, the group had reached the outskirts of Sector 5. The abandoned research station rose from the rocky landscape like a metal mushroom. A central dome surrounded by smaller modules, all connected by enclosed walkways. Its outer surfaces were pitted by acid exposure, but the structure appeared intact. "No signs of occupation," Ria confirmed after scanning the facility. "Power signature minimal but present. Likely emergency systems only." "Could be an automated trap," Santiago warned, still distrustful despite the hours of shared danger. "Only one way to find out," Rivera decided. He turned to Ria. "You first." Ria nodded and approached the main airlock. The access panel still functioned, recognizing her Zuraki biosignature. The door slid open with a hiss of equalizing pressure. "It's clear," she called back after confirming the entrance was secure. "And the air filtration is operational." The humans moved quickly then, carrying their wounded inside with renewed energy. The interior of the station was austere but functional. Sleeping quarters, medical bay, storage facilities, all designed with Zuraki efficiency. The humans looked around with undisguised curiosity. "It's so angular," Dr. Nair observed, running her hand along a hexagonal doorframe. "Zuraki preferred geometric precision," Ria explained, watching as the humans began settling their wounded comrades in the medical bay. "Curves are considered inefficient." "Explains the charming personality," Santiago muttered, but with less hostility than before. Dr. Nair had already located the station's medical supplies and was examining them with professional interest. "Some of this might be compatible with human physiology," she mused. "The basic chemical components of tissue regeneration aren't so different across species." Ria helped where she could, explaining the function of various equipment and supplies. The humans worked efficiently despite their exhaustion, establishing a temporary command center in the main control room and organizing watch rotations. As night fell again over Zenta, a strange calm settled over the unlikely group. The wounded were stabilized, the station's systems functioning adequately. For the first time in days, perhaps longer, both Ria and the humans could breathe, literally and figuratively. Ria found herself in the observation dome, staring up at the brief window of clarity as Zenta's toxic clouds parted to reveal a star-filled sky. The same stars Ethan had sketched in his notebook. The same stars that looked different from Earth, but still contained the guiding North Star. She heard footsteps and turned to find Rivera approaching, Ethan's notebook in his hands. "Thought you might want this back," he said, offering it to her. Ria gently pushed it away. "It belongs with his people, with his family." Rivera nodded, then opened the notebook to the final drawing, the human and Zuraki standing together. "You know what's funny? Ethan was always drawing stuff like this, even back in basic training. The officers thought he was soft, not soldier material. Yet he stayed behind to save you," Ria observed. "That requires considerable courage." "Yeah," Rivera agreed, voice rough. "Ethan was the best of us." He looked up at the stars. "What happens now? Your people will notice you're missing." "They already have," Ria confirmed. "My designation will be listed as presumed dead or captured. Eventually, they'll send another patrol to investigate this sector. And we'll be sitting ducks," Santiago said, entering the dome to join them. He'd removed his breathing apparatus now that they were inside, revealing a face lined with fatigue and stubborn determination. "Perhaps not," Ria said slowly, an idea forming. "This station has a long-range communication array, damaged, but possibly repairable." "So we can call for extraction?" Rivera asked, hope evident in his voice. "More than that," Ria said. "We could broadcast on an open channel, to both sides." Santiago looked skeptical. "Broadcast what?" Ria gestured to the notebook. Ethan's words, his observations, his questions about why we're fighting for a planet neither species truly wants. "That's insane," Santiago protested. "No one would listen." "Some might," Dr. Nair said, entering silently behind them. "On both sides. Those tired of burying friends for a cause they've forgotten." "It's a fantasy," Santiago insisted. "One notebook isn't going to end a war." "No," Ria agreed, "but it might start a conversation." Rivera looked down at the notebook thoughtfully. "Ethan would have liked that," he said quietly, using his words to try for peace. "It's what he wanted," Ria said. "His final drawing makes that clear." The four of them stood in silence, watching as the clouds briefly parted to reveal a brilliant spray of stars. Somewhere among them was Earth, Ria knew, and somewhere else, the Zuraki homeworld. both so distant from this acid-scarred battleground. "I don't know if this can work," Rivera said finally. "But Ethan would want us to try." Dr. Nair nodded. "I'll help repair the communication array. I have some engineering experience." Santiago sighed dramatically. "This is still the craziest thing I've ever heard. But—" He glanced at Rhea, then back at his companions. "What else are we going to do? Die heroically? I've seen enough of that to last a lifetime." Rhea felt something unfamiliar expanding in her chest, a lightness her suit didn't attempt to suppress. Hope, she realized, raw and fragile and powerful. "Then we begin tomorrow," she said. "Together." The acid rain returned, drumming against the observation dome. But inside, Human and Zaraki stood side by side, looking up at the stars. Just as Ethan had imagined, dawn broke with surprising clarity. The toxic clouds temporarily thinned by overnight winds. Rhea, who required less rest than her human companions, had spent the night cataloging the station's resources and beginning preliminary repairs on the communication array. Rivera found her in the transmission room, surrounded by disassembled components. "Any progress?" he asked, handing her a container of what passed for coffee among the human rations. Rhea accepted it with a click of gratitude. "The primary transmitter is intact, power coupling damaged but repairable. With Dr. Nair's help, we should have broadcast capability by midday." Rivera settled onto a stool nearby, watching her work with undisguised curiosity. "Can I ask you something personal?" Rhea's mandibles twitched in amusement. "You want to know if we're really bred for war? If we have families? If we feel emotions?" "Ethan wondered the same things," Rivera said with a half-smile. "We are engineered for combat efficiency," Rhea admitted, carefully reconnecting a severed circuit. "But not created in laboratories, as your propaganda suggests. We have hatchings, broods, what you might call siblings. We are raised in training cadres rather than family units, but we form bonds." "And emotions?" Rhea's inner eyelids flickered. "Our emotional range is different, more contained. Our armor suits help suppress responses that might interfere with combat performance. But yes, we feel pride, loyalty, grief, even humor, though you might not recognize it as such." "And now, what are you feeling now?" Rhea paused her work, considering. Uncertainty, hope, fear. She looked directly at Rivera. "My actions would be considered treasonous by my commanders. I have violated core protocols by aiding enemy combatants. But I cannot find it in myself to regret these choices." "That sounds like what humans call a conscience," Rivera observed. "Perhaps," Rhea agreed. "A dangerous evolutionary development in a soldier?" Rivera laughed, the sound echoing strangely in the angular room. "Ethan would say it's the only thing that makes a soldier worth anything." The rest of the morning passed in coordinated activity. Dr. Nair proved to be a skilled technician, her delicate human fingers able to access connections too fine for Rhea's clawed appendages. Santiago, still wary but increasingly cooperative, organized the other able-bodied humans to secure the perimeter and inventory supplies. By midday, as Rhea had predicted, the communication array was operational. "Limited power," Dr. Nair warned as they gathered in the transmission room. "We'll get one broadcast, maybe two if we're lucky." "Make it count, then," Santiago said, looking at the notebook Rivera held. Rivera turned to Rhea. "Which parts?" Rhea considered carefully. "The observations about Zenta, how neither species truly belongs here. His questions about why we're fighting, and, Rivera prompted. "His hope," Rhea finished simply. "His ability to see beauty even here, to imagine peace when surrounded by war." Rivera nodded and opened the notebook to the marked passages. Dr. Nair made final adjustments to the transmitter. "This will broadcast on all frequencies," she explained. "Both human and Zaraki communications networks will receive it simultaneously." Along with anyone else listening, Santiago added grimly. This could make us targets from both sides. Or it could save lives, Ria countered, including yours. Rivera cleared his throat. Ready when you are, Doctor. Dr. Nair activated the transmitter. A green light indicated an open channel. Rivera took a deep breath and began to read. Transport hit on descent. Captain's dead. Nav systems fried. We're going down in Sector 7. If anyone finds this... He paused, emotion catching in his throat. I hope someone knows I tried. He flipped to an earlier page. I keep thinking about home. The lake behind my parents' house. How the sunrise looked through the pine trees. Do the Zeraki have anything like that? Places they love just because they're beautiful? Everyone says they're just living weapons, bred for war and nothing else. But I don't know. Sometimes in the field, I see them looking up at the stars too. Another page. Lost contact with Echo Squad. That makes 3 teams in 2 weeks. Command says hold position. But what are we holding? Miles of nothing but rocks and acid and death. If the Zeraki want this hellhole so badly, maybe we should let them have it. And finally, Rivera described the final drawing. A human and a Zeraki, standing side by side with the peace symbol between them. Beneath it, 2 words. Possible. Someday. Rivera's voice grew stronger, more determined. This notebook belonged to communications specialist Ethan Chen, who gave his life to save his squad mates. His final question deserves an answer. Is peace possible? We believe it is. We have proof. Right now, humans and Zeraki are working together to send this message. We've discovered that neither of us truly wants this war or this planet. We've discovered we can communicate, cooperate, even trust. Rivera looked at Ria, who stepped forward toward the transmitter. This is Patrol Specialist Ria, 7th Division, she said. Her translator rendering her words into both human standard and Zeraki battle speech simultaneously. I have read Specialist Ethan's words. I have aided his companions. I have seen that humans value the same things we do. Courage, loyalty, home. This war serves neither species. Zenta is killing us both. We propose a ceasefire, beginning in this sector and spreading outward. We propose dialogue. Santiago leaned in, surprising them all. This is Sergeant Santiago Vega, 103rd Infantry. Ethan Chen was my friend. He died believing peace was possible. I'm not letting his death be for nothing. Enough blood has soaked into this acid rock. Enough good people, human and Zeraki, have died for a planet that's trying to kill us all. We're at the abandoned research station in Sector 5. We won't fire if you don't. Let's talk. For Ethan. For all of us. Dr. Nair cut the transmission as the power fluctuated. That's it, she said. It's sent. The 4 of them stood in silence. The enormity of what they'd done settling over them. They had just violated every protocol of both armies. They had just put their lives in the hands of commanders who would likely consider them traitors. They had just risked everything on the words of a dead man. Now what? Santiago asked into the silence. Now we wait, Ria replied simply. The waiting was the hardest part. Hours passed with no response, no indication that their message had been received, or, if received, taken seriously. The humans tended to their wounded, rationed their supplies, and established a watch rotation. Ria assisted where she could, all while monitoring the station's perimeter for approaching patrols. As the brief Zentan night fell once more, Ria found herself again in the observation dome. The stars were obscured by acid clouds, but occasional breaks revealed their distant light. She wondered if anyone was listening, if anyone cared. Room for one more, came a voice behind her. Ria turned to find Dr. Nair approaching, moving more easily now that her injuries had received proper treatment. Of course, Ria replied, shifting to make space on the observation bench. Dr. Nair settled beside her, wincing slightly. I wanted to thank you, she said after a moment. Not just for saving us, but for seeing something worth saving. Ethan saw it first, Rhea reminded her. Yes, but you acted on it. Dr. Nair studied her alien features with clinical interest. May I ask, how does your species express gratitude? Is there a gesture or word? Rhea considered, then slowly extended her upper right arm, palm upward, fingers splayed. This is the symbol of life debt in Zuraki culture. It acknowledges that one's continued existence is owed to another. Dr. Nair carefully mirrored the gesture, her 5 human fingers looking strange against Rhea's 4-fingered hand. Then, I owe you a life debt. Patrol Specialist Rhea. As I owe one to Ethan, Rhea replied softly, though I cannot repay him directly. You're honoring him by carrying his message forward, Dr. Nair assured her. That's a kind of repayment. They sat in companionable silence for a time, watching the shifting acid clouds. Then, Dr. Nair spoke again, her voice thoughtful. If they come, from either side, what will you do? Rhea's mandibles clicked in consideration. Stand with you, she said finally. Attempt dialogue, and if that fails... She left the sentence unfinished. Fight, Dr. Nair completed for her. But this time, for something worth fighting for. Yes, Rhea agreed, for possibility, for someday. Morning brought the answer to their broadcast, but not in the form they expected. Rhea, on perimeter watch, detected movement at the eastern approach to the station. Not a full patrol, but a single Zuraki warrior, moving openly across the acid flats. No attempt at stealth or concealment. She alerted the humans, who gathered at the observation windows, weapons ready, but not yet raised. Just one, Santiago asked, suspicious as ever. Could be a scout for a larger force. Or a messenger, Rivera suggested. Like in the old wars on Earth. Someone to deliver terms. Rhea studied the approaching figure, her enhanced vision picking out familiar details. It's Galar, she said, surprise evident in her voice. My patrol leader. Friend or foe? Rivera asked quietly. Unknown, Rhea admitted, but he comes alone, and in daylight. Those are not the actions of an assassin. As Galar drew closer, Rhea noticed something clutched in his upper left hand, a small rectangular object that caught the morning light. A notebook. Not Ethan's notebook, which remained safely with Rivera, but something similar. Zuraki military journals were standard issue, used for mission parameters and tactical notations. Rhea had never seen one used for personal observations. I will meet him, she decided. Alone. That's crazy, Santiago protested. He is my patrol leader. My responsibility. Rhea's tone brooked no argument. If this is a trap, better I spring it than risk all of you. Rivera studied her for a long moment, then nodded. We'll cover you from here. First sign of trouble. We open fire. Rhea inclined her head in acknowledgement, then moved toward the airlock. As the outer door hissed open, she stepped onto Zentan soil once more, her armor adjusting to the toxic atmosphere. She walked forward slowly, making no threatening movements, until she stood 30 paces from Galar. Her former patrol leader looked much as she remembered, his carapace bearing the distinctive scarring of a veteran, his armor the muted gray of a senior officer. But something was different in his posture, a slight softening of the rigid military bearing. Patrol Specialist Rhea, he greeted her, his mandibles clicking in the formal pattern of acknowledgement between warriors. You live... I do, she confirmed, watching him carefully. You received our transmission. All of High Command received it, Galar said, his voice neither approving nor condemning. It has caused considerable disruption. That was its purpose, Rhea admitted. Galar's inner eyelids flickered, amusement or irritation. Rhea couldn't tell. You were always unconventional. even for a specialist. Why have you come, patrol leader? Rhea asked directly. To execute me as a traitor? To capture the humans? I came because of this, Galar said, extending the notebook he carried. Because of what I read here. Rhea took the offered journal cautiously. It was standard Zaraki issue, but the contents were anything but standard. Page after page of observations, questions, even crude drawings, much like Ethan's notebook, but from a Zaraki perspective. You wrote this? Rhea asked, mandibles clicking in astonishment. Galar made the gesture of affirmation. Over 3 years of deployment on this acid rock. I never intended anyone to see it. Rhea scanned the pages, catching glimpses of familiar doubts. Similar questions. Another human transport shot down today. The recruits celebrate. I remember when I did the same. Now I only wonder, what drives them to keep coming to this death trap? What do they see here that's worth dying for? The same thing we do? And if so, what is that exactly? And later, watched a human patrol from the ridge today? They move inefficiently, waste energy. But they protected their wounded, carried them rather than leaving them behind as protocol dictates. There is a certain honor in that. You understand, Rhea said, looking up from the journal in wonder. I understand questioning, Galar corrected. I understand doubt. I do not yet understand your actions. The human's words, Rhea explained. They mirrored your own. He saw the same stars, asked the same questions. He even saw beauty in our movements, as you saw honor in theirs. Galar's posture shifted subtly. I would see this human notebook. Its owner died protecting his companions, Rhea said. The same companions now sheltered inside the station. I know, Galar replied. Your broadcast made that clear. I would still see his words for myself. Rhea studied him for a long moment, weighing the risk. Finally, she activated her comms. Lieutenant Rivera, Patrol Leader Galar requests to see Ethan's notebook. A pause. Then Rivera's cautious reply. Bring him in, unarmed. Galar's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. They trust you, but not me. Sensible. They have reason to be cautious, Rhea pointed out. Will you surrender your weapons? Galar considered. Then began the deliberate process of disarming, removing his pulse rifle, sidearm, and the various bladed weapons concealed in his armor. When he finished, he stood before Rhea as vulnerable as a Zaraki warrior could be on a hostile planet. Acceptable? He asked. Rhea inclined her head and led him toward the station. Inside, the humans waited in a defensive formation, Rivera and Santiago at the front, weapons lowered but ready. Patrol Leader Galar, Rhea introduced formally. He has requested to see Ethan's notebook. He brings one of his own. Rhea handed Galar's journal to Rivera, who accepted it with surprise. You wrote this? He asked Galar directly. I did, Galar confirmed, his translator rendering his clicks into rough human speech. Why? Santiago demanded, still suspicious. Galar's inner eyelids flickered. For the same reason your Ethan wrote, to understand what I could not speak aloud. Rivera and Santiago exchanged glances. Then Rivera reached into his pocket and withdrew Ethan's notebook. He held it out to Galar. A trade, then, he said. Your words for his? Galar accepted the notebook with a formal gesture of gratitude. The humans and Zaraki watched in tense silence as he carefully turned the pages, absorbing Ethan's writings and drawings. When he came to the final sketch, the human and Zaraki standing together, Galar's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sound Rhea recognized as profound surprise. He drew this before dying? Galar asked, looking up at Rivera. Yes, Rivera confirmed. It was his last entry before our transport was shot down. Galar stared at the drawing for a long moment, then closed the notebook gently. Your Ethan was either a visionary or a fool. Perhaps both. Aren't all visionaries fools until history proves them right? Dr. Nayar asked, stepping forward. Galar made the gesture of concession. Well-reasoned, human. Dr. Nayar, she corrected. I have a name, just as you do. Dr. Nayar, Galar acknowledged. He turned to Rhea. Your broadcast has created a situation without precedent. Some in high command call for your immediate termination as a traitor. Others wonder. Wonder what? Rhea asked. If perhaps this endless war for a planet neither species can truly inhabit has become purposeless. Galar said. If there might be another way. Hope flared in Rhea's chest. And you? What do you wonder, patrol leader? Galar's posture straightened. I wonder if one patrol and one human squad can truly change the course of a war that has raged for decades. It has to start somewhere, Rivera said quietly. Why not here? Why not indeed, Galar agreed. He returned Ethan's notebook to Rivera and held out his hand for his own. I have been authorized to establish preliminary communication protocols with your group. A test case, nothing more. A ceasefire? Dr. Nayar asked, hope evident in her voice. In this sector only, Galar clarified. A small beginning, as you say. Santiago laughed in disbelief. All because of a couple of notebooks? Because of what they represent, Rhea corrected gently. The possibility that we see each other as thinking beings, not just enemies. Galar made the gesture of affirmation. High Command wishes to review both journals, to understand the perspective that led to this unusual alliance. Rivera hesitated, clutching Ethan's notebook protectively. This is all we have left of him. We will make copies, Rhea suggested. Both notebooks. One set for Zuraki High Command, one for human leadership, and the originals returned to their owners. Acceptable, Galar agreed. Rivera nodded slowly. Ethan would have wanted his words to help make peace, even if it's just a small step. As the details were arranged, communication protocols established, preliminary terms discussed, Rhea found herself drawn back to the observation dome. The acid clouds had thinned further, revealing a blue-tinged patch of sky. Not earth blue, according to the humans' descriptions, but closer than the usual toxic orange. She felt rather than heard Rivera join her. It worked, he said quietly, wonder in his voice. It actually worked. A beginning only, Rhea cautioned. Many will resist on both sides. But some will listen, Rivera countered. Some already have. Rhea made the gesture of acknowledgement. Because of Ethan. Because he saw possibility where others saw only enemies. And because you found his notebook, Rivera added, and had the courage to read it, to believe it. Together, they looked out at the acid-scarred landscape of Zenta, the same hellish planet that had claimed so many lives, the same toxic soil that had, improbably, yielded the first seeds of peace. In the distance, the acid rain began again, falling in sheets of corrosive droplets. But here, in this small shelter, human and Zuraki stood side by side, just as Ethan had imagined, just as he had hoped, just as he had drawn in his final act of faith. Possible, someday? Today,